Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of My Safety Consultant. In this episode, I'm going to be talking all about day rate. Probably one of the most important things that you need to consider as a consultant. It's something that I see so many consultants get wrong. How much do I charge for my services? Charge too little, and you're going to put yourself out of business. Charge too much, and you're going to put potential clients off of using your services. So before I get into the main topic, just a couple of little updates. First of all, I joined IRSM as the deputy chair of the IRSM Ambassador Program. Huge honor to have been selected to do that. Really, really excited about it. I've been working this week with Karen Hewitt from Leaderlike, and she's chairing the IRSM Ambassador Network. And honestly, we had our first meeting this week. Really positive. So hopefully I can bring you some updates from that over the months to come. I'll be deputy chair for the next 12 months. So yeah, pretty exciting times. Next, I've written here in the notes, fire diversity row. It's not really a row, but you'll know that a couple of weeks ago, I put out our first video, which was on the Home Office survey of fire risk assessors. And it identified that 92% of fire risk assessors were male, mostly in the age category of 50 plus. And most were ex-fire service. And, the issue with that wasn't to cause controversy over gender, but I have had some messages on LinkedIn, and I've had some messages on the post that I've put out about it saying, why is that an issue? Well, the diversity aside, the reason why it's an issue is it's an indication that we're not attracting new people into the industry. So if I take a step back, not just from being a consultant, but looking at fire safety across the UK, if we don't have any new talent coming into the industry, then we're not going to have anybody to complete fire risk assessments, and we're going to have an issue in the future, right? So that's, and I've already seen that. I've seen that where it's harder for some companies to get access to fire risk assessors. And it's not even that fire risk assessors are charging more money. It's that literally when they were recommending to do an annual review of an FRA, they're now recommending a 2-year review of FRA. My observation is that that has a negative impact on safety because we're not attracting new talent into the industry. That's why that's an issue. Now, of course, there's a huge gender and diversity issue in that if we're not attracting people from a diverse background, we're not bringing diverse thought to problem solving, right? Fire safety it's a complex problem that we can all work together to solve. It's not as simple as going, right, here's a tick box, yes, no, NA. Actually, there are some really complicated problems to solve. And I said this before, that if I have a fire safety problem that I want to solve and I get a room full of fire engineers, guess what? I'm going to end up with an engineered fire solution. That's not necessarily the only way. So if we have a more diverse workforce in fire safety, then we're going to get more diverse solutions to our problems. And that could be what we're trying to seek. And that could be something that we need to achieve. But for me, even simply, as I say, it comes down to we're just not going to have enough staff to do the work in the future if we're not attracting people into the industry. Next up, I've got a book review. Gareth Grimes this week sent me his book on the Building Safety Act. So it's simplifying building safety. We'll leave that there. And honestly, I'm really impressed. Okay, I was working with the Building Safety Act and all of the secondary legislation over the past 2 years, looking at fire safety in HRBs, high-rise buildings, in both build to rent and in the real estate sectors. Honestly, anybody that's worked with this legislation knows it's an absolute nightmare. It's just riddled with challenges, and it's been so hard for us to get our head around. And Gareth, I think, has done a really, really phenomenal job of actually outlining exactly what you need to do in quite a handy little booklet. And I think he's actually come up with a series of these booklets. So what I'm going to do, if anyone's interested, I'm going to put a link in the notes below to Gareth's LinkedIn profile. You can get on there. And if you want to order a copy, just connect with Gareth, drop him a DM, and then say that you heard about the book on the podcast. But one of the things that I'm really impressed at with this is actually he's made it quite entertaining. And I just want to read out a bit from the disclaimer at the very, very start of the book, because I think that will give you an indication of, the level of humor and entertainment that he's putting in. He's putting something it's a really difficult, and it can be a very dry topic. Though the author has heroically battled through oceans of paperwork and mountains of red tape to compile this publication, no guarantees are offered, promised, or even faintly suggested. The author cheerfully disclaims all responsibility for any errors, omissions, or the general bewilderment that may arise from reading it. In short, if you choose to rely on this information, you do so at your own peril, and neither the author nor the publisher shall be held responsible for any injury, loss, or accidental tea spillage resulting therefrom. Honestly, I just like it. I like the way it's written. I enjoy the way the chapters are laid out. And because honestly, it's complicated. Anyone that knows, I think at first a lot of this guidance came out on the HSE website, and actually that guidance was quite extensive, and then it was transferred over to the Gov website, and then you just got this 2-line summary of something that the HSE had produced pages and pages on. And so for someone to actually summarize this, put it all in one location, I actually think it's a very good book. So I was going to mention about consistency in posting these videos on YouTube. So I'm putting the videos on YouTube, putting the shorts on LinkedIn and on TikTok. As much as I don't think much of TikTok as a platform, probably won't copy this in, or they'll blacklist me. It does have a ginormous reach in terms of a social media platform. So if you're a consultant watching this and you're thinking about which social media to do, have a look at TikTok. I wouldn't dismiss it out of hand. But basically, any guidance says that when you're going to post YouTube videos, you have to post them consistently. And what that means is that on days where you don't have anything to say, you have to make up any old crap in order to post something just so that you hit some figures. And quite frankly, I'm really not interested in that. So here's my commitment. I'll post these videos whenever I think I have something interesting to say. And you watch the videos whenever you fancy it. I'm not expecting you to log in every Friday morning at 7 o'clock just to listen to me drone on. But if you could hit the little subscribe button at the top, that would be very, very helpful for me. So if you're watching this on YouTube, there's a little subscribe bell. That would be very, very handy if you would like and subscribe to the video. The reason being is that it makes a huge difference as to the reach that the video gets. YouTube places greater importance on it, and it's incredibly helpful for me. So that'd be very much appreciated. Thank you very much. So today I'm going to dive into the topic of setting a day rate as a health and safety consultant. I see a lot of consultants come to me and say, hey, I'm going to set up my own consultancy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to offer a significantly discounted day rate at first, because then that will give me the evidence that I need, the testimonials, it will give me the credibility that I need in order to build my consultancy. And I'm going to explain why that doesn't work and why that's fraught with danger. But first of all, let me explain how this works. If somebody comes into the profession and says, do you know what? I'm just going to ask around and see what everyone else charges. I'll take the average. I'll discount that by 20%, and then that's my day rate. What you end up with is averaging down, because then the next person comes along and they use you as a benchmark and they reduce it by 20%. And then the next person comes along and eventually we're down to 150 to 200 pound day rates, and we were on £600-700 day rates. And this is why we have a vast discrepancy within the industry, because I see consultants, some of whom are charging £150 day rate, and some of whom are charging £3,000 day rate. And believe me, I've honestly seen that. And I've never understood why we don't have consistency in terms of what we charge in the industry. So let's dive into the low price model first of all. Okay, sometimes known in the industry as stack 'em high, sell 'em cheap. And for some people that might work. But if you want to build a credible safety consultancy, you know when you buy something that sometimes you don't always go for the cheapest. If you want something that's good quality, you know that you're going to have to pay a little bit more. You want that extra reassurance. Now think about it in this industry. How do our clients come to us? They don't go, well, I tell you what, I got a bit of extra money this month. I know, I'm going to buy me some health and safety. They tend to buy us in some form of distress purchase, i.e., they've had an accident, something's happened, their insurer has told them that they need us, they've gone for some third-party certification, like some sort of constructor safety scheme, and they've said, well, you need some health and safety in place, etc. But there's a need there, there's a demand. They have to have it in place. Now, at that point, are they going to go for the cheapest thing off the shelf? I would suggest not, because actually their goal isn't to get health and safety in place. Their goal is to use whatever information system, documentation you provide in order to achieve their goal, whether it be certification, whether it be to appease the HSE, whether it be for any number of requirements. But at that point, they're interested in purchasing your products to achieve an end, not to achieve health and safety in itself. And this is really important, right? Because the psychology then of someone who's actually buying your health and safety services, they're willing to pay a little bit more. And so the point that I'm trying to make is that if you devalue yourself and you drop your price down too low, not only are you reducing the amount of income that you could make, but you're also damaging the likelihood that you're going to get the contract in the first place, because you're going to dissuade the client from using you because they're going to think you're too cheap. And the inference is that the quality of your work isn't going to be good enough for them to achieve the thing that they wanted to. One of the things that I found is that when you set the day rate too cheap, you can attract the wrong clients. And all safety consultants have worked with bad clients. You know, the clients that say to you, well, it's only a small job. It won't be too long. You'll only be on site for a few hours. And what they don't tell you is that there's some legal case ongoing in the background. There's some form of HSE enforcement ongoing. What turned out to be 3 hours is actually 4 days. They're never happy. And next thing, their solicitor's emailing you saying, can you make some changes to the risk assessment to cover X, Y, and Z? It's those clients that you tend to go for when you go, okay, well, if it's only half a day's work, I'll do you a deal on this one. And they invariably end up taking up most of your time. I think it's really important to set your pricing right to dissuade those clients from using your services in the first place. Trust me, it will save you an awful lot of time and effort in the long term. Ultimately, it's about building a trustworthy brand. As a safety consultant, companies hire and use you as their competent person. They need to feel reassured. They need to feel confident that you're going to guide them and give them the right advice. Clients feel reassured by a fair price that reflects quality. And pricing too low makes you look like the cheap option, puts off clients who want quality. The other thing that I consoled myself with back in the early days is I went, well, what I'll do is I'll fill up my diary with cheaper contracts, and then I can always put the price up later. But you can't. It's really difficult, because if you want to gradually increase your price, it's very, very difficult to shift from, right? Because your clients have an expectation that's the price you're going to charge. And if you're only going back there once a year and you've priced too low, even if you increase your price in line with inflation at, say, I don't know, it's down to, 2% now, but even when it's at its highest, like 8%, your day rate to get to an actual day rate, if you've undercut yourself too much, it would take you decades to increase that price. And the other thing is those clients, they don't expect a significant increase in price. So when you say to that client, hey, I know I was charging you £150 last year, but I'm going to have to put my price to £400, they're going to go, well, we're going to go back out to market and see them. We picked you because you were that cheap, and now we don't want to work with you anymore. So don't fall into the trap of thinking, well, I can increase my prices later, because you're not going to be able to. That's really, really difficult. So how do you set a fair day rate from the outset? Here's some steps that help me to think about the type of considerations I would need to make when thinking about what my day rate actually should be. As a safety professional, I can earn 50 grand. I don't know, I'm making up a number, whatever it is that you earn at your level. And you say, well, look, I can earn 50 grand. I'd say what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the number of working days per year. So I don't know, 52 weeks in the year multiplied by 5. What's that? Roughly 260, 270 working days, for example. And then I'm going to I'm going to take my 50 grand salary, I'm going to divide it by my 250, bang, there's my day rate. So what's that come to? Like 200 quid a day? I'm going to have to work this out in a minute before I post it just to make sure that I've not wildly got that wrong. But the issue is that that doesn't factor in all of the other costs that you've got. And there's no guarantees you're going to be working 5 days a week. In fact, you're never going to be working 5 days a week as a consultant. You're never going to have the time then to go and get new work. So this just doesn't work. As a consultant, you've got to remember you're covering your own benefits, like all your pension, your insurance, like medical insurance or health insurance or dental, things like your holidays, things like your paternity, maternity leave, sick pay, all of these things that are covered during employment, these are not covered for you as a consultant. So that your 250 working days per year, take off your 30 days holiday. Well, now you're down to 220. Take off a bit of sick leave, so you 7 days worth of sick leave. You can quickly dwindle that down to around about 210, 220 working days per year. And already you can see that £200 per day just isn't going to get you there. You've also got business costs. So these are all the costs of running your consultancy. Things like insurances. I've mentioned insurance a lot because it is ludicrously expensive at the moment, or can be, depending on how much work you're doing. Things like memberships of professional bodies, professional subscriptions, these are typically paid for by an employer, but as a consultant, you've got to pay for those yourself. Marketing and membership of, My Safety Consultant, for example, the cost of your website, the cost to advertise your business, the cost for Google ads, the cost for your LinkedIn ads, and all of these things. Not just in terms of money, but in terms of resources and time. These business costs add up. So now, looking at all this, we're left with, 220 days and an awful lot of cost. And then the other thing is, these are your client-facing days, right? These are not going to be billable. You're going to have non-client days for admin, for meetings, for personal development, for your CPD, particularly if you're in fire. You're going to have to factor these courses and training in terms of time. So not only when you go and do a course as a consultant, that you're paying out for the course, but you're also losing the income that you could have earned during the time that you attend that course, right? That's something that you've got to think about. So realistically, I worked out as a consultant, I could bill around 120 days per year. So now if we're going to work out our 50,000, we're already looking at over £400 per day. And that's to achieve 50,000. And that's if we work every one of those 120 days per year. But the reality is we're not going to be able to fill those client spaces straight away. And the other reality is, did you set up as a consultant to earn 50,000 a year? Now, that's cool if you did. But if you didn't and you wanted to earn more money, say 80,000, say 90, say £100,000 a year, if you're at that top of your game safety professional level, you can already see now that day rate is significantly higher than what people expect. And this is the thing I see. Let me go back to what I said earlier. I see a number of people say, well, look, I'm going to charge £150 a day just on the outset to build up some client base. Go from £150 to £600 per day, and you're going to lose that client base. All that effort of building up that client base just wasn't worth it, to be honest. So how do you sell this day rate to your clients? So when I started out, I was watching a load of YouTube videos on sales, and someone said in one of those videos that you should set your day rate as high as you can so that you can say it without cracking a smile or laughing. No, I'm not suggesting that you do that, but I think it is about valuing yourself in the correct way. It's about valuing the competence that you have and the reassurance that you provide to that client, because ultimately that client needs the assurance you're going to be their competent person. They need the assurance that they're not in breach of regulations and that they're managing their risks effectively as a business. Setting a fair day rate helps you to stand out as a really trustworthy, competent consultant. And although a low rate might attract these price-focused clients, a fair rate will bring in clients who respect your expertise, see the value that you offer, and build that long-term relationship. So one way to justify a higher day rate by adding extra value for your clients. Think about additional service that can improve your service offering. For example, if you're a fire risk assessor, consider providing a summary report or access to an action tracking portal, or offering discounted training. These little extras can help clients feel like they're getting a premium service, and it can make a real difference. And it's a lot harder for them to say no to that increased day rate. But if you really, really do have to discount your day rate for a client, say that you're in negotiations and they're trying to twist your arm to discount your day rate for this client, instead of discounting the day rate, try adjusting the project scope. So, for example, if the project was quoted 20 days and they want to bring the total price down, rather than discounting the day rate, streamline the project to 18 days. So rather than reducing the daily rate, this way you maintain your rate and you still accommodate the client's budget. Now, the reason why this is important is because if you go in the future and you do any future work for that client, they're not going to press you to the cheaper day rate. They will just expect you to do the job in less time. But as a result of that, then you've got more negotiation, you see, because you can actually negotiate the services that you're going to get completed within that time. Discount the day rate, you're always going to be stuck at that discounted day rate. Earning a living as a safety consultant is challenging. Setting the right day rate is really, really important for long-term success. Like, I hope these tips help, and I hope they provide some insight into achieving a sustainable day rate that allows you to deliver better service to clients. But the best position to negotiate from is one where you don't seem desperate for work. So consistently generating leads, maintaining steady client flow puts you in a much stronger position. While we're on that topic, mysafetyconsultant.io, at the moment, we've got a 3-month free trial. That's not going to run forever. You know, we're going to launch a new website soon. New website should go live towards the end of this month. And at that point, the 3-month free trial will be off. So if you want to benefit from that 3-month free trial, then go on to mysafetyconsultant.io. If you gain nothing else, you get a really good backlink to your website, and that makes your website look higher on the SEO. And that in itself is worth the time and effort. But we've already had members come to us and say, I joined My Safety Consultant, and within 2 days, I secured £800 worth of work. And that was for some fire door inspections that were completed in London. So we're already getting some great success for our members. At the end of the day, you've got to be in it to win it. You need your business on the site in order to be getting those leads. And that's the best way to negotiate, because at the end of the day, you don't have to negotiate yourself down and down and down. If you've got a really full diary, it's very, very easy to increase that day rate to a more sustainable level. I've had some messages before on this about VAT. Ultimately, the VAT threshold in the UK is pounds off the top of my head. If you go above £85,000, you're going to have to register for VAT. And at that point, then you need to start charging your clients VAT. Now, in our profession, business to business, it doesn't tend to be so much of an issue, but some people just don't want the hassle, the extra accounting costs, the extra bits that go along with it. And I guess it depends on what you do, right? If you're a training company and you're selling training to individuals, not businesses, then ultimately the VAT is just going to add 20% to their bill that goes straight to the government. Thank you very much. But if you're mainly working with large companies that are VAT registered, it's going to make no odds to you. But it is another consideration that someone messaged me about. But that's it. That's all I've got for this episode. If you've got any tips on setting the right day rate, if you've got any stories, any information about day rate, then please drop me a message in the comments. Let me know. And thank you very much.